Welcome, everybody. This is Elaine Starling. I'm the host of Why 5% Succeed. We are so fortunate to have the amazing Debbie Horovitch with us today. Debbie is an expert at Hangouts and helping people create celebrity Hangouts. This is where not only are celebrities attracted to participate in your Hangout, it's also really attractive to sponsors as well. And one of the biggest challenges people have when they're creating a show is how do you create a 360 show, one that has incredible value for viewers, but also has incredible value for sponsors. And that's why I really wanted a chance to interview Debbie about the 4 different ways she's creating a return on investment for her clients. And you can do the same kinds of tips, tools, techniques, and tactics in your business too. Debbie, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Elaine. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, it's going to be a blast. I always start with the very first question. I ask you to think about a time when you needed to purchase something for your own business and you were unexpectedly blown away. There was something about the experience that it just went above and beyond what you thought the purchasing experience would be. What was that for you that just made you, okay, I got to buy this thing because this person just made it an incredible experience for me? Could you describe that to us?
Wow, I mean, that's a great question, of course. There have been so many times where I have bought online, especially for my business, especially in the last couple of years, as I've been transitioning from really just a service-based professional, just trying to take my expertise and give it to businesses one at a time, to actually developing a product out of what I've been doing for the last couple of years. And so that's the biggest thing for me.
That's great. That's great. Well, I want to get into a little bit more detail about what you're doing with your clients. And could you describe some of the more tangible results that your clients are experiencing from working with you?
Well, it's not just a matter of what I can do for my clients, but it's really about when people take more effort to put into their Google Hangouts on air planning for their shows, when they take additional time to plan in weeks and in months, that the results that they get out of Google Hangouts on air, out of doing an activity like that, it improves the results that they get so much. And I've said for a really long time about Google Hangouts on air, it always comes down to the more effort you put in. The more you put in, the more you get out. And I mean, sometimes, unfortunately, you can put your effort into the wrong things and really just end up spinning your wheels or wasting a lot of time and not getting the results that you needed for that big investment of time and energy. And other times you can put in the extra effort at the beginning and have incredible results. And that's what I really like to play around with and explore. That's where my expertise is. And where can we push the edge of what we can do with Hangouts on air?
Debbie, the very first kind of return on investment that you create for your clients is a rewarding experience. And I know that you have very generously offered to make your Hangout sponsorship blueprint available to everybody who's watching the Hangout, both the live and the recorded Hangout. And that's an incredible thing for you to offer, but I'd like you to tell a little bit about the Hangout sponsorship blueprint and why that helps you create an incredibly rewarding experience through your show.
Well, I think the incredibly rewarding experience that you talk about, it's so important because you have to get rewarded for your efforts as a Hangout producer yourself. So it's got to be rewarding for you. And you need to know what you're in the business for. Why are you doing Hangouts on air? What is your why in business? And what are the results that you expect to get out of it? What are the rewards that you expect to get out of it? Both tangible business bottom line results and also the more personal, soft results that you as a business owner want to achieve as a business professional in this world. And so it really comes down to looking at both the value of the relationships that you can create and the business results. No one can argue numbers of opt-ins, numbers of new leads, and tangible dollar sales as a result from a Google Plus Hangout on Air that's a part of a well-constructed funnel. And then the other half of it, or maybe probably the first half of it that anyone can start to leverage, is right from the very first Hangout on Air that you do, you're starting to develop really strong and powerful relationships with the people that are on the Hangout with you. You have that face-to-face connection. And here as a guest today, I have no idea if we have any live viewers or if we have tons of live viewers. I have no idea. I don't have any sense of that. So to me, I'm really just here connecting with you, and that's something that, based on the relationship, the experience that we have today, I'm going to carry that forward with me, as this was my first experience. What did they call it? The first impression. When you make a first impression on someone. This is my first impression of you, Elaine. In all reality, because we've only spoke previously on Hangouts on Air. Or
it's fascinating because you're giving the lead into the very next result. So thank you. You did a great job.
I love great segue.
Segue. The first one is the rewarding experience. The second one is the relationships. To me, I define relationships as merely a series of rewarding experiences. When you design a Hangout show that is so compelling, that has so much great information and value for people that they have to come back and watch every single week, they don't want to miss a single show. Yes. And if by some chance they miss it, they'll watch the recording, they want to comment on it, they want to interact. That's what a relationship's all about. So I'd love to have you talk a little bit about what are you doing? What have you found to be the most effective way to connect with your clients? What methods or technologies are you using to really make that relationship continue?
First of all, I never know who's going to be my client or who could introduce me to my next client. So I'm not always good at it, but I try and keep that in mind as much as I can. And it's important that you understand that a lot of the people who are thinking about hiring you, they're just not ready to hire you yet, but I'm not even dating anybody, but I already know who my wedding photographer is going to be. And I've spoken to her. I emailed her. I saw her photos on her website, and I was just like, I want to hire you for when I get married. I'm not even dating, but it's okay. And so unless she does something between now and then that offends me, that drives me to remove myself from her list, she's going to be my wedding photographer. And so that's a big part of the relationship that I try and just keep in mind, that, right, like, it doesn't, as much as I really want to make things happen fast and soon and faster, and last week and yesterday, and I'm so far behind, I don't know what I always feel like if you just relax a little bit into the relationship and, take a breath and take a moment to think about what is it that they're trying to do? What is it that they're trying to achieve? And so I try and make every interaction, every engagement, most of them are emails or short messages on Twitter or, private messages on Google+. I try to make every interaction with them something where I'm giving them something that I'm not giving to anybody else, or I'm giving to them, and because it's specific for them. It's about something that they are working on, or something that they've said that they're working on to me. And so I'm trying to really help them with what they're working on, rather than trying to distract them from what they're working on. And so I just try and make every every engagement, every email, every message about, hey, you know, thanks for helping me with this, or I saw you doing such and such, which was excellent. It really helped me in this way and that way. You know, I always bring it back to thanks for helping me. I'm so grateful for the help that you've given me. Can I make you feel really awesome about yourself by giving me some more help? And I also try and make every message, when I'm doing this successfully, because I don't always do it successfully, but what I've seen when I am doing it successfully, I always make every ask and every offer for an interaction, for a closer relationship, almost like for a date. I make every ask something that they can easily say no. I craft it in a way so that they can easily say no and still feel really good about me having asked. And that's the really important thing, because I don't want a single one of my requests or offers or emails or messages to be annoying.
That's a really good point. That's so important, because you are trying to engage with people and interact with them and foster that relationship. And you actually alluded to a model that I teach with my clients, and it's a 4-step part to every conversation. It starts with acknowledge. Acknowledge something that they're doing really well. Appreciate what they're doing, and give them a very specific example of why you appreciate what they're doing and how it's made a difference for you. So acknowledge, appreciate, then explain what you're working on now. Mm-hmm. And invite them to engage with you. And again, it's up to them whether they take the time and effort to engage, but you're letting them know that they can engage.
Exactly. Just a collegial, a neighborly thing. Hey, I wanted to make sure if you're available, if it's the sort of thing that really piques your interest, I would love to have you there. If you're not available, I know that they've got a million things going on. I would love to have that lifestyle. I would love to be that busy. And, you know, I will be at some point. But for now, they're still much more busy than I am. And so I cater to their schedule and I cater to their needs. And that, for me, what I know is that it creates a series of trust in their physically how they respond to me. They learn to trust. It's kind of like developing a relationship with a skittish pet. They need to trust over time, over these micro interactions with you, that you're never going to hurt them, that you're never going to take advantage of them, that you're always going to really appreciate them and approach them with consideration for them. And that trust, I mean, especially when you become an influencer, when you become a celebrity, there are so many people that want to take advantage of you at every turn. You have to, myself, I know that in approaching them, I have to be really patient. It's, you know, some of the relationships that I'm still working on developing that are really strong, where, you know, I've been covered in people's business books and really given quite a bit of endorsement from them and from their name. There's still relationships that I'm working on, and it's been 5 years of patience, where I'm sitting going, oh, why are they not responding to my email? Oh, it's killing me. And then sometimes they respond to my email, or they don't even, you know, it's just something in the biggest way, like Mike Michalowicz, you know, included me in his book, and that wasn't something, I didn't have to do anything for it, and I didn't even really know it was happening.
You know, Debbie, I want to circle back to something that you've been saying, but not directly. And I really want to make a point of this, because it's something that you do automatically and effortlessly, and I think you discount how important it is. Okay. And it's part of the reason why it's so useful for people to get a copy of the Hangout Sponsorship Blueprint, and we're going to tell you in just a minute how to do that. But the value of setting expectations, meeting or exceeding expectations, is how you instantly build trust. And trust is what fosters relationships. So how can you, through your show, through every email, through every interaction, be very straightforward with people and help set expectations on what they can count on from you, and what they might experience back with you. So it's great when you're working on putting together your Hangout so that you can secure sponsorship. Working through the Hangout sponsorship blueprint really helps you understand the full value that your show has to offer, not only to the viewer, but also to potential sponsors. And then you can make sure that you're in alignment with that vision, that intersection. And if you just hit home again and again and again, it's like my show, Why 5% Succeed. It's about the tips, the tools, the tactics, the techniques that people like you are using to grow their business, to grow the return on investment. And it's getting great ideas and insights from folks like you that are really making my point, right? You are my show.
Well, I don't know. I think I learned my approach in sales and in negotiations. I think you would understand it, Elaine, because we have similar backgrounds. But the majority of my career was as a media buyer for large agencies and large brands. But in those years, I also did some national media sales. And especially when I was the media buyer, when my clients would give me millions of dollars a year. In theory, I never actually saw any of that money. It was just numbers on a page on an Excel sheet. And they would give me, $25 million a year that I had to spend 100% of that budget. Over a few weeks, I had to plan it out and negotiate it out with hundreds or more of media sales reps. And what always struck me over those years was when I would see a sales rep really turn me around, and I really started to observe how would a sales rep that I wouldn't have time to even pick up the phone, like if I saw their number calling through, it would always go to voicemail. How would I get them to turn me around and bring me to a point where I was spending $250,000 a year or more with them? And I never, I didn't torture them to get that $250,000 a year. They did something simple that turned me around in an instant, and I went from not even having time to take their phone call to, listen, I got a deal for you. Here, it's going to be $250,000 over the year. Can we talk about the details? And they're absolutely open to negotiating at that point. So what I really, really learned was the most important thing that you can do in negotiations, and everything is a negotiation. That's my second book is about negotiating everything in life, is really understanding what you have to offer that is of value to them. And when you're producing a Google Plus Hangouts on-air show, what you have that is of value to them is that media channel, that media platform that talks to the same audience in the same environment that what they're working on, what their struggle, what their cause and message is. When it fits perfectly for your media channel, it's a no-brainer for them to consider. And as soon as they have the money, or as soon as whatever limitations that are stopping them from buying now are removed, you're going to get the contract. It's not about hard sales. It's not about hard negotiations. It's not about you trying to get more money from the sponsors and the sponsors trying to get less money from you. It's about trying to put as much on the table to give them as much value and as much results and as much involvement in the success of your show as you possibly can, through the process of setting expectations, so that they're involved in their own success, so that they're involved in your success, and that they're involved in really saying, well, maybe it didn't meet all of the expectations that we had, but we're going to actually try again because we think we can improve. And that's what life is all about. Even relationships are messy, right? Like, they're never perfect all the time.
Hey, who wouldn't want to have been in bed with Google in the early days, right? Who wouldn't have wanted to get a couple shares of stock way back when they were nothing? And it's just like who you are with your show. Whatever your show is, you might not be huge. You might not be Oprah right now. But count on it. you will be later. And so they want to take advantage and get in bed with you now. They want to have those relationships now as you're growing, as you're expanding your brand. And one of the things that you've done really brilliantly leads me to the third type of return on investment, which is reputation. Reputation is key, especially when you're going after sponsors. Why? It's all about positioning with them. They want to be aligned with the folks who are innovative, who are ahead of the game, who have a new approach to things. And you've done something really powerful, Debbie, that I want you to talk to everybody about, because it's a really cool strategy that every single one of us listening can actually incorporate for our own Hangouts.
Okay, so what you're talking about, I suppose, is the Forbes article. And what happened was, I've been working on Celebrity Hangouts on air for really the brand for the last year, for the last 12 months, and producing Hangouts on air for 2 years now. Last September 2012 was when I did my very first Hangout on air show, and it's always been something that I feel like I'm leading people with Hangouts on air. I'm not teaching stuff about Hangouts on air to people that I just know more than them. I'm teaching about Hangouts on air to everybody who will listen, because nobody knows the stuff that I've figured out. The Forbes article and the reputation that it builds, what I decided to do was, I've always been thinking about how it positions me as a thought leader. And one of the big things that I know I can do to build my awareness and to build my audience and to bring guests into my show is to network when I'm offline and to network in real life. So I've always been trying to do presentations and speaking engagements. And one of the things that I never did, I knew about and I've been thinking about, but I just, I guess I felt a little bit insecure, to be honest. And I was waiting for the time before I felt confident. And what I never did was guest blogging. And so I decided, really throughout my entire career, there's been 2 magazines that I've always I just wanted to work with them in any way, shape, or form. And I've always been a media addict, media queen my entire life. Forbes magazine and Fortune magazine, I remember buying campaigns in the 2 of them in the mid-90s. Like, they were, in my early 20s being like, I can't believe I'm buying a page in Forbes. And I would still probably be as excited today if I were still doing that. So what I did was I managed to write a guest blog post for publishing in Forbes.com. And what I did was, in order to have that happen, I leveraged one of the relationships of my guests. An author who I'd had on my very first show, which was my successful show, Sparkle SOS Book Authors and Publishers. Dory Clark, who's a writer for Forbes and for Harvard Business Review, and entrepreneur, and she does all of these amazing branding consulting gigs and teaching. She was coming out with her first book, and so I invited her onto my show. And this was, 18 months ago when I first found her and discovered, wait, she's just coming out with a book. I've got this show. She's the perfect guest, because I had just had, or I was preparing to have Guy Kawasaki on my show, who would be my first big celebrity guest on my show, that he had asked me if he could be on my show, and it kind of blew everything up for me, because I was like, what do you mean you want to be on my show? I didn't even really know who he was, to be honest. I thought that, well, it's not that I didn't know who he was, but I thought that he was Robert Kiyosaki. I thought he was the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I knew that he had written Enchantment, and I knew that I had seen him speak at the Art of Marketing, or the Art of, one of the Art of conferences, and so I had his book Enchantment, and I had another one of his books, but I also thought he was the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so I went into the store to like figure out, okay, what books of his do I need to get when I'm preparing. I very quickly discovered that Guy Kawasaki is a very different person from Robert Kiyosaki. So I was doing as much research as I possibly could on Guy, and really trying to leverage having him as a guest on my show. He's such a big celebrity on Google Plus, and he's so well known in tech circles, and he is, you know, he's the original evangelist.
Oh yeah.
Tech evangelist. And so I really felt like if I could, you know, get in with Guy Kawasaki's social circles with my show, it would have a lot of opportunities. So I was researching where he was doing speaking engagements before coming on my show so that I could just absorb as much of his content and figure out where he's not Robert Kiyosaki and, you know, which books he didn't write, so that I wouldn't flub it up live online. And I found Dory Clark speaking at one of the same conferences that he was at. And it really just, it was one of those things where she was so engaged in the process of being a guest on my show. She joined us a month early. She said it was because she wanted the opportunity to practice so that she would have the tech discomfort of being on a Hangout on air out of the way by the time she came on to be interviewed herself. But, you know, it was also, she came on a month early to meet Chris Guillebeau, the author of The $100 Startup, who was my next author after Guy Kawasaki. So I started to notice over 4 or 5 months in the spring of 2013 where Dory Clark would be on my show, be introduced to a book author who's, you know, someone that I'm really enthusiastic about what they're doing, really cool stuff. And within a few months, there would be either a co-authored article or her featuring them in an article in Forbes or Harvard Business Review or somewhere else. So I knew in my head that when the time was right, if I sent the right content to Dory, we've had enough interactions back and forth. She's been super supportive of my show. I knew that if I sent her an article, even having never written anything for any big media channel before, that she would at least consider it, you know, if I sent her good content, she would give it serious consideration and try and find a way to work it in. And regardless, she would consider it like a friend, you know, not like someone who's trying to take advantage of her. So I really, really waited until in my gut I knew that I had worked up the reciprocity with Dory, that I had given her so much, that I'd introduced her to so many people that became great content for her articles, for her blog, that I was creating great relationships with her and other influencers before I sent her my pitch and my article. But what's really innovative about that article written for Forbes, it's called The Ultimate Guide to Hosting Google Plus Hangouts on Air. What's really innovative about it is that I have the opportunity there to both demonstrate and test one of those little corners, one of those little edges that I explore with Google Plus Hangouts on Air, which is really, it blows my mind that nobody talks about it, which is how you can create a network effect for your Google Plus Hangouts on Air by embedding the future YouTube video embed code into guest blogging articles. Like, I know that a lot of you who are watching are guest blogging. You're trying to create thought leadership for yourself. So if you think about what are the top, you know, 4 or 5 media channels that you would be most enthused to have your business message, your cause shared, your hangout shared in those channels, and then start to develop a relationship with them. If you're writing about, if you have a unique take on what is important to them, they're going to be interested in participating in your show. And they're going to be grateful that you are taking the effort and putting in the effort in the world, because nobody else in the universe is putting effort. Nobody else in the world, unfortunately, this sounds bad, but nobody else in the world cares about your show. If you do it, if you don't do it, nobody cares if you do it or if you don't do it. But if you do it and you care, other people will care too.
You know, Debbie, I think you're also making a really good point here in that content is king. And these people are struggling to come up with new content, new insights, new stuff. And so if you are bringing them high value information that's really relevant to their audience,
yeah,
you're making their life easier. That's why press releases are so huge. You know, people think that all of the major news outlets have everybody in the world on their staff. Actually, about 90% of what you see in a newspaper is based on a press release that's been massaged a little bit. I hate to tell you, but
by staff
that means
writers.
There's a lot of opportunity for the rest of us.
Exactly. I think this, you know, it came about with social media, and braided journalism was something that Shell Israel coined after the Hudson flight landing. I can't even remember, Flight 741, I think it might have been. There was an article that I read in the paper yesterday or earlier I think it might have been Monday, if not yesterday, but talking about one of the major newspapers in the United States that had cut 70% of their staff, they cut 70 of their editorial staffers. It was mostly editorial and journalists who were being cut from long-time jobs at major U.S. print titles. And they were saying, you know, like really there were days where they have to do more social media tweeting. So every article that you write that gets into print, you also have to drive traffic to it. And if you publish your blog post, you also have to drive traffic. And they were saying really that the journalists who aren't picking up on social media, who aren't having that interactive and engaging conversation and feedback with their audience. That's like, you need to engage your audience in the content that you're writing. If you're a journalist, you need to pick up on Hangouts on Air, because it's the best way to drive readers back to the page. It's the best way to get their feedback. It's the best way to get people polarized on a subject and you know, pissed off or fighting for or against an idea.
You know, Debbie, I think we're all on the same page here, and we've been teasing and teasing and teasing, telling people we're going to give you this Hangout sponsorship blueprint. No, really we are. So why don't we tell people exactly how you can get a copy of the Hangout sponsorship blueprint. All you need to do is email Debbie. It's DEBBIE Horovitch, HOROVITCH @gmail.com, and we're going to put this in a comment shortly. You want to show Y5 in the subject line, and just as Debbie identified Forbes as a really great media outlet for her show, she wants you to identify a really great media outlet for your show.
Exactly.
And put that in the email. So just so you can see it, you can get your copy of the Hangout Sponsorship Blueprint by contacting debbie.horovitch @gmail.com, put Y5 in the subject line, and then let her know which media outlet you most want to do a guest blog for, and you're going to embed a future Hangout in your guest blog. I love that concept. Love it.
It's fun for me because, like I said, I'm testing it. I didn't know what would be the results. I've never done something like this before, so I couldn't tell. But I had to do a lot of sort of thinking in advance when I was writing the article initially to be scheduling the future Hangout on Air while writing the first draft. And I hadn't even spoken to Dory. I actually pitched her the finished draft.
And you know what? I'm going to ask you, Debbie, in the comments after the show's over, would you please include a link to the article that you wrote? Because that will have a link to the Hangout. And everybody who's watching the show, whether it's a recording or the live show, you can actually attend Debbie's Hangout that she's got posted in Facebook. And she's also been posting a little bit about how you can be a part of that Hangout. So if you want to break some real ground in your business, check out what Debbie's doing with Forbes. It's pretty amazing. Now, Debbie, I do want to switch gears and go on to the fourth kind of return on investment, which is all about revenue. When push comes to shove, we got to bring some money in the door. So I want you to talk briefly about how the Celebrity Hangouts on Air is helping people make more money, save more money, and feel like $1,000,000.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you. Okay, so I mean, this is the first time that I'm putting it into this exact context. But I would say the make more money when you have a signature Hangout on Air show, which the signature show is something that you become known for. It's the, oh, I see you everywhere. You're always hanging out with the coolest people. I just saw you did so and such with so and so. It becomes the thing that everyone talks about and everyone knows. That's your signature show. Make more money. It brings in bigger clients for you because as people see your social proof and your social status increasing, you'll have more confidence. You know, you've heard the saying that the 5 people you spend the most time around, your bank account reflects, and you reflect the 5 people you spend the most amount of time around. So if you're spending time around influencers and celebrities and you're developing real relationships with them, you're going to have the confidence to start charging more for whatever it is that you do and earning more for that. So you're going to make more money in that way. The way that you save money with Google Plus Hangouts on Air is that Google Plus, no matter what business you're in, no matter how long you've been in business, you care about the results of Google search. The results, how your business shows up on Google search impacts your wallet every single day. It impacts your cash register. It impacts how many people are walking through the door and how many times your phone rings every single day. And so one of the fastest ways, if you're just starting a brand new website, if you don't even have a website at all, you can start your business marketing and you can start generating leads and developing sales right through a Hangout on Air. So that's going to save you a ton of money. I mean, right off the bat, it would save you money off like GoToWebinar, which, you know, a couple $100 a month just to start on GoToWebinar. Hangouts on Air is a free way to get started with your webinars and with your sales. So make money, save money, and the third
feel like $1,000,000.
Feel like $1,000,000. I mean, I definitely don't feel like the same person that I did even a year ago, right? Like my whole universe, my whole perception of what I can do, and when I take action, what will the results be? It shifted. And the reason why it shifted is because of the Hangout on Air experiences that I have. I've been flown into other countries to do speaking engagements about my Hangout on Air experiences because I just looked at it and said, listen, this is something that I can tell people about. This is something that I can dive in, that I can wear the armor, that I can wear the costume fully and become the ambassador for Google Plus Hangouts on Air in my style of planning. And that's something that I can really, you know, plant my flag and decide what flag is it that I'm going to fly in this, you know, in business.
You know, Debbie, I want to bring up one more thing that you're doing that I think is so incredibly powerful, because one of the ways that you're making your clients feel like $1,000,000 is you're having them participate in your, you call it a media, refresh my memory, what is that thing called again? Right, a media junket. Thank you.
Yeah. I just love that. I mean, everything about the Hangout on Air, from start to finish, from the or sorry, what did we rename it? The Hangout sponsorship blueprint. From the Hangout sponsorship blueprint to the media junket, everything is about serving the community, the people who are actively in the conversation that I want to push forward, that I want to push in a particular direction. I want to take that whole community of people and their power and their influence, and I want to just tip them a little bit in my direction. And so I think about, with my show, how can I create an engagement? How can I challenge them? How can I give more? And so what I wanted to do was take my connections with media channels and my abilities to get exposure for the people who go through the Celebrity Hangouts on-air training program and are launching new shows. I wanted to give them an opportunity, especially to showcase what they're doing, so that they could come out of the Celebrity Hangouts on-air training and launch and have these skills, and not only that they would be able to do it, but that it's kind of like I'm introducing them to my friends in a party, you know, in a welcome to the welcome to the sentence party.
It's a brilliant strategy, because you're creating that platform for your clients. You're showcasing what's working really, really well about what they're doing. Acknowledge, appreciate, explain, engage. You're doing that through the media junket, and it's absolutely brilliant. Well, I've asked you all the key questions that I could come up with, but my last question is always, is there something I should have asked that I didn't think to ask that you would love to answer for our audience today?
Well, I mean, I definitely have. I thought I really, really like the title of your show. It really, you know, it got me thinking a lot over the last couple of weeks. I'm like preparing for it, and I'm thinking, wow, why do 5% succeed? Have I really succeeded? Am I part of the 5% that is succeeding? And what is it that I do that probably less than 5% of people are doing that is helping me achieve what I'm achieving? And so I came up, I have 3 really unique things, I think, that are from me for your audience, that especially if you're just getting started, I hope you'll remember me saying this when you go through some challenging periods. So the first thing is really, it's important, especially when you're getting started with a Hangout on-air show, even if you've been in business forever, no matter how much confidence you have, the most important thing, you're going to be working with a lot of people and doing a lot of really uncomfortable and new things. You have to not feel badly about every decision that you make that turns out to be the wrong decision afterwards. You're going to be making a lot of decisions, and a lot of them are going to be wrong. You just have to make the decision because you've got a deadline and you've got to push things forward and you've got to keep on moving forward. But you don't know what the right thing is going to be, what the right outcome will be. You don't know what the outcome will be. And if you spend time beating yourself up, if you spend time feeling badly about the things that turned out wrong because you've never made that decision before, then it's not really a good use of your energy. And it's okay to look at the things that turn out disasters and go, okay, let's pull this apart, let's do a postmortem and figure out how can we improve for next time. And how can we become the beacon in the night so that nobody else hits themselves on those rocks. Right? Like, let's talk about our failures. Let's talk about what we're implementing so that we don't have those same experiences again. Let's highlight how easily everyone else could get tripped up. Oh, watch out for that.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Help people. And that, you know, that's a much better way of spending your time sort of post-activity rather than beating yourself up. Because I know that holds a lot of people back. And I don't want you to be held back. I want you to go after your dreams. Think about, hey, I wonder if I could do this. Take action on it and see. Maybe you could. you know, it probably won't work out right away, but you never know. It might be fun enough for you to keep on doing. It's kind of like gardening. You don't really get much out of gardening in the first month or two, right? It's not really very rewarding. You're digging in the dirt all day long, and you don't even know if your garden is going to sprout or not.
That's a very good analogy. I like that. I like that. So what's the second key thing that you want everybody to remember?
The second key thing, and I think I probably alluded to it, really is about taking imperfect action. You know, and I was, for so many years in my life, I was trying to create a perfect image. The perfect image that I had in my head was what I was trying to create in my life. And I was trying to convince people, you know, the fake it until you make it. I was trying to convince other people, and if they believed, and maybe I would start to believe, and then it would feel like it. And it never really kind of worked out. And what I really have changed, and what I've seen, you know, you just take action every day. It's kind of like, I go back to gardening again. You plant seeds every single day. You don't know if the ground that you're planting the seeds into is good. You don't know if the seeds are genetically the perfect seeds. You know, maybe 1 out of 100 seeds is genetically perfect. You just need to keep on planting seeds every single day. And most of the seeds that you plant are never gonna bloom anything. Some of the seeds that you plant are going to pop up a flower that is completely different than what you expected. and the rest of them you'll get, you know, you'll kind of get what you expected. And for me, what I find in taking imperfect action, I'm just like, I kind of feel like I'm learning from everything, and if it's a mistake, well, I might have to go through 99 wrong turns, wrong doors that I open up and walk through and go, nope, this is not the room for me. This is not the place for me. I'll try the next one. It's kind of like dating. I don't expect to marry the first man that I date. I have no problem with dating lots of men, and until I find the one that is right. So taking imperfect action, for me, what it's resulted in, I could not have purchased or predicted being written about in 3 business success books. I just couldn't have purchased or predicted having Dory Clark at Forbes and Harvard Business Review as a friend, who, when I created my first ever funnel and sent it to her just sort of as a lark to let her see, because she's on the landing page with a, you know, a testimonial. I said, hey, here's my first ever funnel. I'm really proud. I hope all the sales will start ringing in. And didn't she tweet it out to her 13,000 followers on her Forbes and Harvard Business Review as a cool program?
That's pretty sweet. That's
you
pretty
really
sweet.
You can't buy opportunities that come out of friendships. And that's where it's not what you know, it's who you know really comes back into play. The really big things in business and in life that everyone goes, oh my God, you were in Forbes? How did you do that? It comes out of the relationships. It didn't come, nobody taught me how to do that, and I didn't know that that was specifically what I was trying to do, didn't know exactly what the outcome would be, but oh my God, I'm so glad I tried, because look at what happened. And that's the most important thing. You just got to keep on trying and learning from every time. Like,
so
you
what's
can't
number
really
3?
without practice.
What's
And
number 3?
Please break the mold. You got to try and do things differently from everybody else. It's okay to do a Me Too product or a Me Too training, or to be regurgitating content and curating content, but ultimately you're building other people's businesses. And if you really want to stand out, you really want to make yourself exceptional in the world, and you want people to notice you, you've got to do things really, really differently. And you've got to decide what is that, the flag, the stake that you're planting in the ground, that you're saying, this is my expectation for myself, this is how I'm doing it differently, this is how I'm going to serve the world in a way that nobody else is. And even though nobody else gets it or understands it, I'm just going to keep on doing it until it's done. And who
You're
knows?
really speaking to me on that one, Debbie. I'm gonna tell you, I am not thinking about the world the way most people do. Talking about the 4 results, the 4 return on investments that you create. This has been such an incredible experience, and I want to put up your email one more time. Debbie Davis is very generously offering her time as our Hangout producer. She's muted herself, but she's been fabulous at helping us with comment wrangling in the background. Not everybody has seen what's been going on here, but again, the article that Debbie's talking about is at Forbes. We'll put that in the comments underneath the Hangout on the event page, so you'll be able to see that. But we also want you to be able to email Debbie directly in order to get your free copy of her Hangout sponsorship blueprint. And again, just email her debbie.horovitch, Horovitch, @gmail.com. Put Y5 in the subject line, and then in the body, tell Debbie which media outlet you would love to be a guest blogger for. And there are lots of guest blogging websites out there that you can use, that you can access. So take a minute, send Debbie an email, let her know how much you enjoyed the show, let her know what it meant to you to hear from her and some of her ideas. Thank you so much, Debbie, for being on the show today. This was fabulous. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Debbie Davis, for being our Hangout producer today. Waving at everybody. And thanks, everybody, for listening. I hope you'll join us next week on the 17th. We're going to have another fabulous show. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.